Hi, baby. It's Grandma. I'm going to read you some books. Today, it's about bears. Moon Bear's Pet. One spring day, while playing in the pond, Bear found a new pet. "Oh, what a cute little fishy," cried his friend Little Bird. "What will you call her?" As Bear hurried home, he thought of names like Skinny Sweet Pea or Slowpoke, but none of those names seemed quite right. Then he dropped his pet into a bowl of water, and she landed with a splash. "That's it," cried Bear. "We'll call her Splash." Bear and Little Bird loved to watch Splash swim and blow bubbles. They put Splash on the floor while they played and on the kitchen table while they ate. After lunch, they took Splash outside to watch while they worked in Bear's garden. They even took Splash shopping. Every night after Little Bird flew home to his nest, Bear stayed up late talking to Splash and telling her bedtime stories. Every morning, Little Bird brought Splash a present: an acorn, a seashell, a pretty pebble, or a pink button. As the days and weeks passed, Splash grew bigger and bigger. One day, Little Bird chirped, "Look, Splash is growing wings. He must want to be a bird just like me." Bear took a close look at Splash. "Those aren't wings, see? There's 4 of them. They must be paws. Splash is becoming a bear just like me." "Why would anyone want to be a clumsy old bear when they could be a beautiful bird?" chirped Little Bird. "Indeed," exclaimed Bear. "Why would anyone want to be a chirpy sack of feathers when they could be a big, strong bear?" "Well, I guess we'll just have to let Splash decide for herself," huffed Little Bird. "That's just fine with me," Bear huffed back. So Bear and Little Bird put Splash in a tiny pool next to Bear's pond and promised each other not to visit her for a month. "And don't visit me either," said Bear. "I wouldn't dream of it," said Little Bird. Bear and Little Bird used to play together. Now they played alone. At the end of the month, Bear and Little Bird met at the splash pool. "Now we'll see what a fine bear she's become," mumbled Bear. "Or what a fine bird," grumbled Little Bird. But Splash wasn't in the pool. "Splash," Little Bird called up to the sky. "Splash," Bear called into the woods. Just then a young frog hopped up and croaked, "Here I am." "Please don't bother us now, little frog," said Bear. "We're looking for my pet Splash." "But I'm Splash," said the frog. "But you're not a bear," said Bear. "Or a bird," said Little Bird. "I was never a fish either," said Splash. "I was a tadpole. And tadpoles don't become bears or birds. They become frogs." Bear was so surprised. All he could say was, "But would you rather be a bear?" "I'd rather be a frog," said Splash. "But wouldn't it be best if we were all birds?" said Little Bird. "No," replied Splash calmly. "I think it would be best if we were all friends." Bear was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I think she's right. I agree, said Little Bird. I miss you, Little Bird, whispered Bear. And I miss you too, Little Bird whispered back. And I miss both of you, cried Splash. Come on, let's all go for a swim. Good idea, said Bear. Great idea, chirped Little Bird, and they all jumped in the pond with a splash. The end. This is Moon Bear's shadow. One day, Bear went down to the pond with his fishing bowl and a big can of worms. While he was putting his worms on his hook, he looked down and saw a big fish. I'm going to catch that fish, thought Big Bear to himself. But when Bear stood up to throw the line in the water, his shadow scared the big fish away. Go away, Shadow, cried Bear, but Bear's shadow would not go away. Okay, said Bear, if you won't go away on your own, then I'll just have to get rid of you. And he ran down, and he put down his fishing pole and began to run. He ran around the pond. When he got to the other side, he kept running. He ran through the field of flowers, jumped over the brook, and hid behind a tree. Good, thought Bear. Now Shadow can't find me. But Bear was wrong. When he stepped out from behind the tree, the first thing he saw was Shadow. Nearby was a cliff. Bear walked over to the cliff and looked up. I'll climb so high, Shadow won't be able to follow me, said Bear. Bear climbed higher and higher until at last he pulled himself up to the top. Huffing and puffing, he smiled with pride. Then he looked down and saw his shadow. Now Bear was very annoyed, so he went home and got a hammer and some nails to nail his shadow to the ground. He hammered and hammered and hammered, but no matter how many nails he hammered, he couldn't nail his shadow down. If I can't nail him down, thought Bear, maybe I can bury him. So he got a shovel and he dug a hole. When the hole was deep and wide, he let his shadow fall in the hole. Didn't work. Then Bear filled the hole with dirt. When he was finished, it was almost noon. The sun was high in the sky, and the shadow was nowhere to be seen. At last, said Bear, no more shadow. But now Bear was very tired, so he went inside and took a little nap. While he slept, time passed, and the sun once again cast a shadow everywhere. When Bear got up and opened the door, he saw his shadow on the floor. Not you again, exclaimed Bear, and he slammed the door, hoping to lock his shadow inside, but Shadow was too quick. Sighed Bear, how about this? If you let me catch the fish, I'll let you catch one too. Nod your head if you feel like that's a deal. When Bear nodded his head, Shadow nodded too. So Bear went back to the pond, and once again he threw his line in the water. By this time, the sun was in a different part of the sky, which made it easier for Shadow to keep his part of the deal. And when Bear caught the big fish, Shadow caught one too. The end. This is Mooncake. Once summer night, Bear and his friend Little Bird sat down to watch the moon. After a while, Little Bird said, "I think I feel hungry." "Me too," replied Bear. "And you know what I wish? I wish I could just jump up and take a bite of the moon. How delicious would that be?" "How do you know?" chirped Little Bird. "Maybe the moon doesn't taste good. Maybe it tastes terrible." Bear thought for a moment, and then he went inside and got his bow and arrow. With a piece of string, he attached a spoon to the arrow. Then he went outside and shot the spoon at the moon. "I knew that wouldn't work," said Little Bird. "The moon is just too far away." "Then what we need is a rocket ship." "Then I shall build one," said Bear. The very next day, Bear went to the junkyard and bought everything he thought he would need to build a rocket ship. All summer long, Bear and Little Bird worked and worked, and when fall came, the rocket ship was not finished. "I would like to go with you," said Little Bird, "but winter is coming and I must fly south with my flock." So Little Bear and Little Bird said goodbye. When it began to get cold and the leaves fell off the trees, Bear got sleepy. But instead of climbing into bed, sleeping through the winter, he kept right on working. He worked and worked until the rocket ship was finished. Then he climbed inside and began a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. But before he reached 1, he fell asleep. He slept and he slept and he slept, until one night the wind knocked over the rocket ship. Bear had never been awake in the winter before. When he opened his eyes, all he saw was snow, and he thought he was on the moon. He climbed out of the rocket ship, scooped up some snow, and made a little moon cake. Then he tasted it. It tasted like something he had tasted before, but he wasn't quite sure what it is. While he thought about that, he decided to go for a walk. He didn't want to go too far because he was afraid he would get lost. So he just walked in a big circle. After a while, he came upon his own paw prints in the snow. These paw prints are too big to belong to a moon mouse or even a moon raccoon, thought Bear. Maybe they're made by some moon bear, or perhaps, he shuddered, a terrible moon monster. Bear felt scared. He ran back to his rocket ship and prepared himself to take off. Again, he began a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. He fell asleep again. This time he slept until spring. One day his friend Little Bird returned and woke him up. "How was everything down south?" asked Bear. "Just fine," said Little Bird. "Did you go to the moon?" said Little Bird. "I sure did," said Bear. "And how did the moon taste?" asked Little Bird. "Was it terrible?" "No," replied Bear. "It was delicious." This book is called Moon Bear Skyfire. One day, Bear looked out the window and saw a rainbow. He had never seen a rainbow before. To Bear, it looked like the sky was on fire. "Oh my goodness," called Bear to his friend Little Bird. "Just look at the sky." Little Bird flew over to Bear's window. "Why, it's a rainbow," said Little Bird. "Come on, let's go find the pot of gold." "Pot of gold," said Bear. "What are you talking about?" "Don't you know?" replied Little Bird. They say there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow." "What nonsense," said Bear. "The sky is on fire, and all you can talk about is gold." And he picked up an empty honey pot and ran outside. At the pond, Bear filled the pot with water. Then he ran toward the rainbow. He ran and he ran and he ran. "Look, Bear," said Little Bird. "The rainbow ends right by that hollow tree." But Bear wasn't listening. He was busy climbing the hill. When he got to the top, he threw water on the rainbow. Just then the rainbow faded away. Little Bird chirped, "Look, Bear, I found gold." Bear went to the tree. Inside he found lots of golden honey, and he filled his pot. And took it home. That night Little Bird came over. Bear made honey cakes. After dinner they went for a boat ride. For a long while it was very quiet. Then Little Bird said, "So it was a rainbow, and I did find a pot of gold." "Oh no, it wasn't," replied Bear. "It was sky fire." And I put it out. The end. This one is Good Night, Baby Bear. One chilly night, as snow began to fall, Mother Bear led Baby Bear to a cave. "This is where we'll sleep through the winter," said Mother Bear. Baby Bear wasn't used to sleeping in a cave. "Why can't we sleep under the sky like we always do?" he asked. "Winter has just begun," replied Mother Bear. "Soon it will be too cold to sleep under the sky." "Mama, I'm hungry," said Baby Bear. "I'm sorry, there's no food in the cave," replied Mother Bear. "But I always had a little snack before bedtime when we slept outside," said Baby Bear. Mother Bear thought for a moment. "Wait here, I'll be right back." Not far from the cave, Mother Bear found an old apple tree. She pulled down a branch, plucked an apple, and carried it back to her cup. "Thank you, Mama," said Baby Bear, and he munched on the apple. Mother Bear soon fell asleep, but Baby Bear couldn't get comfortable. He couldn't fall asleep. He poked Mother Bear. "Mama, I'm thirsty." "I'm sorry," replied Mother Bear. "There's no water in the cave." "But I always have a drink before I went to sleep when we slept under the stars," said Baby Bear. "Okay," sighed Mother Bear. "Stay here and I'll see what I can do." Mother Bear followed the scent of the water until it led her to a small stream. She dipped some leaves in the water and carried them back to Baby Bear. Thank you, Mama, said Baby Bear, and he licked the water from the leaves. Maybe now I'll sleep. Baby Bear lay down next to Mother Bear and waited to fall asleep. He waited, and he thought and thought. Then he bumped Mother Bear and said, Mama, I know what I need. I need the moon. You need what? Said Mother Bear. I never have trouble falling asleep when I can look at the moon, explained Baby Bear. I can't get you the moon, said Mother Bear, but I need it, insisted Baby Bear. Mother Bear heaved a great sigh. Wait here, she said, and lumbered out of the cave. By now the snow had stopped falling and the moon was out. The light fell on the snow like warm honey. Oh, moon, Mother Bear called in the sky. I'm so tired and my baby can't fall asleep without you. What am I to do? Just then some snow from a pine tree fell onto the hillside and began to roll. As it rolled, it gathered more snow and grew bigger and bigger. By the time it reached Mother Bear, it looked like a big round moon. Thank you, Moon, said Mother Bear, and she rolled the snowball into the cave. I know it's not the moon, she said, but there's just enough moonlight coming in the cave to make it shine like the moon. Can you see it? Oh, yes, cried Baby Bear. Good, said Mother Bear. Now please go to sleep. Okay, Mama, said Baby Bear. Just one more thing. What now? Grumbled Mama Bear. I want to give you a kiss, said Baby Bear, and he kissed Mother Bear on the nose. Good night, Baby Bear, said Mother Bear. She drew her cub into a warm embrace and kissed him back. Good night, Mama, said Baby Bear, and he closed his eyes. At this time, deep beneath the snow in his cozy warm cave, Baby Bear fell asleep. Aww, doesn't he have a good mama? Just like you. The end. This is Moon Bear's Dream. One day, a kangaroo with a joey in her pouch escaped the zoo and wandered through Bear's yard. Do you see what I see? Said Little Bird. I sure do, replied Bear, but I can't believe my eyes. It looks like something from a dream. Maybe we are dreaming, chirped Little Bird. Yes, that's it, cried Bear. We're probably asleep in our beds right now. Maybe we should wake ourselves up, said Little Bird. Why not have some fun first, chuckled Bear. He went inside, took down a honey jar, and started scooping out big pawfuls of honey. Weren't you saving that honey for winter, said Little Bird. This is dream honey, said Bear. I can eat it now and it will still be here when I wake up. What a great idea, said Little Bird, and he flew to the shelf where he kept his bird seed. Yikes. When Bear finished the honey, he dropped the jar on the floor. Crash. Are you going to clean that up, said Little Bird. Why bother, said Bear. When I wake up, the mess will be gone. That's right, chirped Little Bird, and he pushed the vase of flowers off the table. Let's make a mess. Let's make a big mess, cried Bear. What fun, whooped Little Bird, and we don't have to clean it up. All we have to do is pinch ourselves and wake up, and then everything will be neat and tidy again. I love this dream, said Bear. What shall we do next? Let's go for a dream swim and pick some dream berries, chirped Little Bird. Okay, agreed Bear, and they walked to the pond. While the two friends had fun together, the kangaroo wandered into the bear's house. And that's where the zookeeper found her. Oh my, he cried, look what you've done. But it wasn't the kangaroo. The zookeeper quickly picked up the clutter and swept the floor. He even gave Little Bird new birdseed and fixed Bear's honey jar. Then he tried to catch the kangaroo. When Bear and Little Bird returned from the pond, Bear said, I don't want to see that mess again. Me neither, chirped Little Bird. Let's wake up. Okay, said Bear, and they pinched themselves. Then Bear opened the door. Everything was neat and tidy. Bear's winter honey jar was still full, and so was Little Bird's birdseed. Gosh, that was fun, said Little Bird. But how come we're not in our beds? Bear thought for a moment. Then he said, we must have been sleepwalking. All that sleepwalking tired me out, Little Bird yawned. Me too, Bear yawned back. Let's take a nap. Sweet dreams, said Bear. Sweet dreams, chirped Little Bird. The end. This is Moon Bear's Bargain. One day, Bear said to Little Bird, I wish I could learn how to fly. I'll show you how to fly, chirped Little Bird, if you'll teach me how to be big. Okay, said Bear, the first thing you have to do is eat everything I cook you. And he went inside to cook a big meal for Little Bird. Then he made tiny barbells and showed Little Bird how to lift weights. Every day, Bear cooked for Little Bird and made sure he did his exercises. Little Bird didn't get any bigger. It's not working, is it? Said Little Bird. No, replied Bear, but I've got another idea. He gave Little Bird a pumpkin seed. Bear showed Little Bird how to plant the seed, and he gave him a tiny watering can. Every day the pumpkin plant grew bigger and bigger. When it blossomed, Bear showed Little Bird a trick. If you want to grow really big like a pumpkin, all you have to do is snip off all but one blossom. When the blossom withered, the pumpkin began to grow. One day the Bear carved a picture of Little Bird on the pumpkin. As the pumpkin grew bigger and bigger, so did the picture of Little Bird. Then one afternoon, Bear said to Little Bird, see how big you've grown. I can hardly pick you up. Now you have to teach me to fly. Little Bird was very proud of his pumpkin, and it did make him feel big. Okay, chirped Little Bird, flying is easy. Just climb up on the rock over there, flap your arms, and jump. Bear did exactly as Little Bird said. He climbed up on the rocks, flapped his arms, and jumped. But soon he hit the ground with a bump. It's not working, is it? Said Bear. No, chirped Little Bird. But I've got another idea. First we have to go shopping, and I'll show you exactly what to do. So Bear and Little Bird went downtown and bought some paper, sticks, string, and glue. Then they got home. Bear set to work. At first he had trouble tying knots. He kept breaking the sticks, and the glue seemed to get all in the wrong places. But finally, he made a beautiful kite. Now paint a picture of yourself on the kite, said Little Bird, and I'll show you how to fly it. Flying the kite wasn't any easier than making it. But when at last it was high in the sky, Bear exclaimed, "Look at me, I'm flying." The end. Last book for the bears is Happy Birthday Moon. I hope you like your bears. One night, Bear looked up at the sky and thought, wouldn't it be nice to give the moon a birthday present? But Bear didn't know when the moon's birthday was or what to get him. So he climbed a tall tree to have a little chat with the moon. "Hello, moon," he shouted. But the moon did not reply. Maybe I'm too far away, thought Bear, and the moon cannot hear me. So the bear paddled across the river and hiked through the forest. Into the mountains. That's where Grandma lives. Now I am much closer to the moon, thought Bear, and he shouted again, "Hello!" This time, his own voice echoed off the other mountains. "Hello!" Bear got very excited. "Oh boy," he thought, "I'm talking to the moon. Tell me, when is your birthday?" "Tell me, when is your birthday?" replied the moon. "Well, it just so happens that my birthday is tomorrow," said Bear. "Well, it just so happens that my birthday is tomorrow," said the moon. "What do you want for your birthday?" said Bear. "What do you want for your birthday?" asked the moon. Bear thought for a moment and replied, "I would like a hat." "I would like a hat," said the moon. "Oh, goody," thought Bear. "Now I know what to get the moon for his birthday." "Goodbye," said Bear. "Goodbye," said Moon. When Bear got home, he dumped out all of his money from his piggy bank. When he went downtown, he bought the moon a beautiful hat. That night, he put the hat up on a tree where the moon could find it. Then he waited and watched until the moon slowly crept through the branches and tried on the hat. "Hooray," yelled Bear, "it fits just fine." During the night, while Bear slept, the hat fell out of the tree. In the morning, Bear found the hat on his doorstep. "So the moon got me a hat too," exclaimed Bear. He tried it on, and it fit perfectly. But just then the wind blew Bear's hat off of his head, and he chased after it. But it got away. That night, Bear paddled across the river and hiked through the forest to talk to the moon. For a long time the moon would not speak to him. So Bear spoke first. Hello. Hello, replied the moon. I lost the beautiful hat you gave me, said Bear. I lost the beautiful hat you gave me, said the moon. It's okay, I still love you, said Bear. It's okay, I still love you, said the moon. Happy birthday, said Bear. Happy birthday, said the moon. The end. Grandma loves you, baby.